You said, "Do you know T.D. Jakes?" ChatGPT said, "Yes, I know T.D. Jakes." T.D. Jakes. Thomas Dexter Jakes is a prominent American bishop, author, and filmmaker. He's best known as the founder and senior pastor of the Potter's House, a large non-denominational church in Dallas, Texas. His preaching style is passionate, theatrical, and deeply motivational, often blending biblical teachings with practical life advice. He has a commanding voice and uses a lot of emotional intensity to connect with his audience. He's also a successful author, having written many best-selling books like Woman, Thou Art Loosed, Instinct, The Power to Unleash Your Inborn Drive Soar, Build Your Vision from the Ground Up, Crushing, God Turns Pressure into Power, and Beyond the Pulpit and Page. He's produced films and hosted conferences like Mega Fest, bringing together faith, entertainment, and empowerment. Are you looking for something specific related to T.D. Jakes, like speechwriting in his style, a summary of his teachings, or something else? You said, "Please write a powerful motivational speech on this title, Focus on Yourself Until You Win." In the style of T.D. Jakes, before giving me speech, give me 5 keynotes. The speech must be an educational way, ChatGPT said. Absolutely. Here's how we'll begin. 5 keynotes for the speech. Focus on yourself until you win. In the style of T.D. Jakes, your greatest assignment is you before you fix the world. Fix what's within. Transformation begins internally, not externally. Distraction is the enemy of destiny. The more you chase approval, comparison, and noise, the further you drift from purpose. Growth requires isolation. Sometimes God pulls you away so he can build you up. Character is forged in quiet places. Discipline is the currency of winners. Focusing on yourself means developing discipline, rejecting excuses, and embracing responsibility. Winning is a process, not a moment. It's not about one big victory. It's about daily choices that build momentum toward success. Ready? Now here's your powerful educational style motivational speech in the voice and rhythm of Bishop T.D. Jakes. Focus on yourself until you win in the style of T.D. Jakes. Ladies and gentlemen, sons and daughters, hear me when I say, the greatest battle you will ever fight is not out there, it's in here. Touch yourself on the chest and say, this is the project. You are not called to fix them before you fix you. You are not assigned to chase their timeline, follow their feed, or match their milestones. God didn't call you to comparison. He called you to completion. And the completion begins with your commitment to focus on yourself until you win. 1. Your mind is your first battlefield. If you don't win the battle in your mind, you'll lose in the boardroom. You'll lose in the classroom. You'll lose in your home. The first war you need to win is not physical. It's mental. You can't build a palace of purpose with broken bricks of doubt. And you can't rise in life when you're weighed down by insecurity. Fix your focus. Every time you invest in your thoughts, you're learning your discipline. You're making a down payment on your victory. 2. Block the noise. Find your voice. Some of you are too distracted. You scroll more than you study. You compare more than you build. You chase applause more than you chase alignment. Let me tell you something. Your destiny doesn't need a crowd. It needs clarity. And sometimes clarity only comes in silence. God will put you in a season where the phone stops ringing, the followers stop following, the friends start fading, but He's not punishing you. He's positioning you, because in the quiet you can hear your own soul again. You can finally say, this is who I am, this is what I'm building, this is where I'm going. 3. Discipline is greater than desire. Desire feels good, but discipline does good. Desire gets you started. Discipline keeps you moving when the thrill is gone. Do it tired, do it confused, do it lonely, do it broke. Just do it. If you want to win, you can't wait for the right mood. You move in the right mindset. Because winners aren't born. They're built in moments of discomfort. 4. Embrace the power of daily progress. Winning doesn't happen overnight. You don't go from overlooked to overbooked in 1 week. You go from unseen to unstoppable by stacking small wins day after day. It's the early mornings, the quiet prayers, the uncelebrated work, the decisions no one claps for, but God sees them. Don't despise the days of small beginnings. What you build in the dark will shine in the light. 5. Stay focused until the finish. The finish line is not when they applaud you. The finish line is when you become everything you were created to be. The goal is not to impress the world. The goal is to express the purpose God put inside you. So stay focused, stay humble, stay in your lane, stay in the grind, stay in the process until you win, because when you focus on you, you find that everything you were looking for, peace, power, progress, purpose, was locked inside you all along. Fire final word, don't let people rush you. Don't let pressure distract you. Don't let pain derail you. Focus on yourself until you win, because you are worth the work. And your future is waiting on your focus. Can I get an amen? Would you like this speech formatted for a video script, sermon transcript, or YouTube narration next? You said, expand the first. Keynote without headings and intro of keynote up to 800-word chat. GPT said, absolutely. Here's an expanded version of the first keynote, titled Your Greatest Assignment is You. Written in a rich, educational, and motivational tone in the style of T.D. Jakes, without headings or introductory phrases, extending up to 800 words. Before you try to build the business, the brand, or the bank account, you must first build the person. You are your own assignment. You are the foundation on which everything else will stand or fall. You can't expect to have strong results if the roots are weak. You can't expect elevation when the internal structure has never been inspected. The truth is, before God gives you power, He gives you responsibility. And that responsibility always begins with yourself. You see, we live in a time where people want external change without internal transformation. We want the prize without the process, the crown without the cross, the victory without the inner work. But life doesn't work like that. God doesn't work like that. You can't climb higher until you dig deeper. You can't influence others until you've governed yourself. There's no shortcut to character. There's no bypass around self-mastery. You are your most important project. Your potential is not found in popularity. It's found in self-development. And this is the part people don't want to hear, because it's not glamorous. It doesn't get likes. It doesn't make headlines. But the quiet work you do on yourself will echo in every room you enter. The way you handle your emotions, the way you respond to pressure, the way you carry yourself when nobody's looking. That's the work that determines if you're ready for the stage, the business, the platform, the leadership. God is not impressed by charisma. He's drawn to character. He's not looking for the loudest voice. He's looking for the strongest vessel. And strength doesn't come from noise. It comes from discipline. It comes from intentionality. It comes from knowing that the person I am today must evolve if I ever want to carry the weight of the promise that God has placed in my spirit. Focusing on yourself is not selfish, it's stewardship. You are stewarding your mind, your habits, your energy, your purpose, and when you neglect that stewardship, you sabotage your future. So many people are tired not because of their purpose, but because they've been performing for others. Trying to meet everyone else's expectations, trying to be accepted, trying to be validated, while ignoring the deep call to take care of the soul within. You've got to shut the noise out sometimes and say, I've got work to do on me. You're praying for new doors, but are you prepared to walk through them? You're asking God for promotion, but have you prepared your mind for pressure? Because every blessing has a burden. Every level has a weight. And if you haven't strengthened yourself, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, you will be crushed by the very thing you were asking for. That's why the first battle is the internal one. That's why the greatest focus has to be on your own growth. The work you do on your mindset, on your habits, on your healing, that work becomes the scaffolding for your success. You can't conquer the world if you haven't conquered yourself. You can't lead others if you haven't learned to lead your own thoughts. Too many people want to be the voice of a generation, but have no control over their own impulses. They want a microphone, but they haven't mastered their mouth. They want visibility, but they haven't embraced accountability. And let me tell you something. The anointing will draw attention, but only character can sustain it. And character comes from the work you do on the inside. You don't become excellent by accident. You don't grow in greatness by chance. You become who you are becoming through daily decisions, through the books you read, through the people you associate with, through the thoughts you allow, through the habits you form, through the time you spend alone, developing in the dark while others are performing in the light. What you sow in silence will determine what you reap in success. There is a version of you that you haven't met yet, and you will only meet them through focus, through sacrifice, through consistency. You will never meet your highest self if you're always focused on everybody else. You will never reach your full potential by living on autopilot. You must be intentional. You must be focused. You must be faithful, not to an audience, but to your assignment. And the first assignment is you. So stop running from the mirror. Stop postponing the inner work. Stop excusing your potential. Look yourself in the eye and say, I owe it to my future to build a better me, not a perfect me, but a growing me, a disciplined me, a transformed me, because when you become the best version of yourself, you don't just win. You empower others to rise. Your personal growth becomes a gift to the world. Your healing becomes someone else's hope. Your breakthrough becomes a map for someone else's journey. You're not doing this just for you. You're doing this for everyone attached to your purpose. And if you don't rise, they won't either. So focus on yourself. Build yourself, heal yourself, prepare yourself, because you are the foundation, and when the foundation is strong, everything else can rise with confidence. Would you like me to expand the next keynote in a similar way? You said, expand the second keynote without headings and intro of keynote up to 800-word. ChatGPT said, certainly, here's the full 800-word expansion of the second keynote. Distraction is the enemy of destiny, written in a motivational, educational tone in the style of T.D. Jakes, without headings or introductory phrases. One of the greatest threats to your future is not failure, it's distraction. You may think the enemy is attacking your finances, your relationships, or your confidence, but often what he's attacking is your focus. Because if he can steal your focus, he can steal your future. If he can get your eyes off the assignment, if he can lure your heart away from your purpose, if he can keep you scrolling instead of sowing, he doesn't have to destroy you. He just has to delay you long enough that you give up on your own calling. Distraction is subtle. It doesn't always show up looking like danger. Sometimes it shows up looking like opportunity. It comes disguised as urgency, attention, applause. It whispers, look at them. You should be further by now. It says, what if you miss out? What if they're doing better? What if you never catch up? And so you move, not by faith, but by fear of falling behind. You move because you're comparing, not because you're being called. But destiny does not respond to comparison. It responds to clarity. You can't build a focused life on a distracted mind. You can't serve two masters, your purpose and their opinions. You can't chase your assignment and everyone else's approval at the same time. Something has to be silenced if your calling is going to speak. Something has to be sacrificed if your future is going to rise. You've got to make up your mind to stop checking on what everyone else is doing and start checking in with what God called you to do. Because let me tell you, your calling is custom made. It's not duplicated. It's not mass-produced. It's unique, it's divine, and it's sacred. And the moment you start comparing it, you contaminate it. The moment you start matching your speed to theirs, you sabotage your process. That's why the enemy doesn't always need to tempt you with sin. He just needs to tempt you with distraction, with detours, with conversations that drain you, with relationships that break your focus, with opinions that slow your pace. There are people in your life who are not wicked. They're just wrong for your direction. They're not evil, but they're exhausting. They don't steal your money. They steal your momentum. And some of you have been giving VIP access to people who were only meant to observe from the balcony. They weren't called to walk with you into destiny. They were assigned to remind you why focus matters. And every time you lower your standards to keep them, you also lower your speed. You also compromise your clarity. You also invite confusion into your calling. Distraction doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It whispers through overcommitment, through procrastination, through fear masked as planning, through busyness that feels productive but doesn't move you forward. And here's the hard truth. Some of us are addicted to distraction because we're afraid of the responsibility that focus demands. Because when you finally get serious about your purpose, excuses don't work anymore. You can't blame others. You can't hide behind someday. You have to own it. You have to act. You have to move. And that's why focus is so powerful. Because when you decide to focus, you take back authority over your time, your energy, and your mind. You take back your day from the distractions that once dominated it. You begin to filter every opportunity through the lens of your purpose. You stop being pulled in 10 directions, and you start walking in the direction God designed for you. Focus makes you dangerous. Focus makes you effective. Focus is a weapon. That's why the enemy fights it so hard. He wants you overwhelmed. He wants you second, guessing. He wants your attention scattered so your energy is weak. Because if you ever got still, if you ever got silent long enough to hear God clearly, if you ever cut off the distractions and tuned into the voice of destiny, you would be unstoppable. And I need to tell you something. You don't have to be everywhere to be effective. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to have 1,000 talents. You just need the discipline to focus, to lock in, to say no to what looks good so you can say yes to what is God, to let go of what's loud and hold on to what's lasting. You can't afford to give your energy to things that don't move your purpose forward. You can't keep feeding every fire, answering every critic, chasing every trend, and still expect to walk in the power of your calling. At some point, you must say, I'm not going to be distracted anymore. I've got work to do on me. I've got a purpose that requires precision. I've got a dream that demands discipline. Because the truth is, your destiny is waiting not on more talent, not on more approval, but on more focus. Every moment you waste in distraction is a moment stolen from your development. Every day you spend watching others live is a day you delay the life you're meant to create. So shut the door, turn off the noise, cancel the unnecessary, and remember this: distraction is not entertainment, it's warfare. It's sent to detour you, delay you, and if possible, destroy you. But the moment you fight back with focus, the game changes. You begin to grow, you begin to build, you begin to walk into rooms ready, not wondering, because you finally understand, if you're going to reach your destiny, you've got to protect your focus like your future depends on it, because it does. Would you like me to expand the third keynote as well? You said, expand the third, keynote without headings and intro of keynote up to 800-word chat. GPT said, certainly, here's an 800-word expansion of the third keynote. Growth requires isolation. In a motivational and educational tone styled after T.D. Jakes, without headings or introductory phrases. Growth does not always happen in the crowd. In fact, some of the most transformative seasons of your life will happen when no one is watching, no one is clapping, and no one even knows your name. Growth is often birthed in isolation, not in celebration, because before God elevates you publicly, He will develop you privately. He will pull you away not to punish you, but to prepare you. He will close doors that you thought should have stayed open, not to hurt you, but to hide you, for a season, for a reason, and for a greater revelation. You must understand that isolation is not the absence of People, it is the presence of process. It is the divine classroom where character is formed, vision is refined, and strength is stretched. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's quiet. Yes, it can feel lonely, but don't confuse loneliness with loss. Just because you're alone doesn't mean you're abandoned. Just because it's silent doesn't mean God isn't speaking. Some of God's loudest lessons come in the quietest moments. We love the idea of success, of destiny, of calling, but we rarely celebrate the solitude that shapes it. Because real growth, the kind that lasts, the kind that anchors your soul, is not forged in applause, but in anonymity. It's not built on platforms, it's built in prayer closets. It's not perfected in public, it's birthed in the dark, where God deals with your motives, your mindset, your mess. He deals with what others can't see, because you cannot rise on gifting alone. If the platform elevates you but your soul is not prepared, the same platform will crush you. This is why God often isolates before he elevates. He calls you out of your comfort zone. He separates you from familiar voices. He removes the noise so you can hear his whisper. He removes distractions so you can learn discipline. He removes the applause so you can check your motives, because he's not just building a moment for you. He's building a movement through you, and movements require weight. They require depth. They require roots that go deeper than the surface. So if you're in a season right now where people are walking away, where doors are closing, where everything feels quiet, don't panic. Don't chase what left. Don't beg for what God removed. He's teaching you how to stand alone. He's showing you how to carry vision without validation. He's proving that you don't need a crowd to be called. You don't need a stage to be significant. You don't need applause to be anointed. All you need is clarity, commitment, and consistency, and those are often developed in isolation. And while the isolation is often misunderstood by others, you must learn to embrace it. Because in isolation, you begin to see yourself more clearly. You begin to confront the parts of you that were hidden behind busyness. You face your fears, your doubts, your wounds, and you let God heal them. You let him refine your identity so you no longer chase people for confirmation. You no longer need their agreement to keep moving forward. You no longer need their permission to be powerful. You finally realize that your calling was never dependent on their understanding. Your purpose was never attached to their presence. Isolation breaks your dependence on people and strengthens your dependence on God. It teaches you how to pray deeper, how to think clearer, how to move wiser. It shows you that sometimes the most productive seasons are the ones where nothing seems to be happening on the outside, because everything is shifting on the inside. Your roots are growing. Your faith is maturing. Your character is being sculpted. And while others may be racing ahead publicly, you're building quietly, steadily, strongly. And when your moment comes, you won't just show up. You'll stand up because you've been prepared in private. Don't resent the hidden season. Don't rush out of it prematurely, because if you leave the cave too early, you'll carry unfinished growth into a stage that demands maturity. If you try to prove yourself before God has processed you, you'll break under pressure. What God is doing in your private life is protection, not punishment. It's strategy, not silence. He's not delaying your destiny. He's developing your capacity. Let me tell you, the world is loud, but purpose is quiet. Culture screams for visibility, but calling whispers for alignment. Everyone wants the light, but few are willing to be forged in the dark. But if you want to last, if you want to lead, if you want to walk in real power, you've got to embrace the quiet seasons. You've got to be okay being misunderstood. You've got to trust the process even when it feels like progress is invisible. You're not behind. You're being built. You're not forgotten. You're being formed. And when the time is right, when the oil is ready, when the vessel has been tested, God will release you into a season where your preparation meets opportunity. But don't skip the solitude. Don't curse the cave. Don't fight the isolation, because growth requires it. And when you finally emerge, you won't come out the same. You'll come out wiser, stronger, sharper, and ready, not just to succeed, but to sustain what success brings. Would you like me to move on to expanding the fourth keynote next? You said, expand the fourth keynote without headings and intro of keynote up to 800-word. ChatGPT said, certainly, below is an 800-word expansion of the fourth keynote, discipline over emotion, written in a powerful educational tone in the style of T.D. Jakes, without headings or introductory phrases. If you want to win in life, if you want to rise above average, if you want to walk in fullness of your destiny, you must understand that discipline is greater than emotion. Emotion is temporary, but destiny is eternal. Emotion fluctuates, but vision must stay fixed. If you live by how you feel, you'll forfeit everything you were called to be. If you only move when you're motivated, you'll miss every opportunity that requires consistency. And in this life, success doesn't bow to feeling. It bows to discipline. You will not always feel inspired. You will not always feel strong. There will be days when your heart is heavy, your mind is cluttered, and your motivation is nowhere to be found. That is when discipline has to stand up and say, I will still show up. Because growth does not ask for your feelings. It demands your faithfulness. You don't train because you feel like it. You train because it's necessary. You don't pray because you're emotional. You pray because you understand that spiritual strength comes from consistency, not convenience. Discipline is the decision to honor your commitment long after your excitement has disappeared. It is the internal agreement you make with yourself that says, no matter what I feel like today, I will still honor the path. Because winners are not made in their feelings, they are made in their follow-through. You don't build a powerful life by chasing moods. You build it by choosing mastery, and mastery only comes when you practice what's right, even when it doesn't feel good. You can't grow if you're always waiting to feel like growing. You can't build if you're always waiting for ideal conditions. The storm may rage, the wind may blow, the valley may stretch long, but the person who chooses discipline over emotion keeps moving. They keep praying, they keep working, they keep learning, they keep believing. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. That kind of resolve shakes the gates of hell. That kind of consistency moves heaven. Because you see, emotions are indicators, not commanders. They're meant to inform you, not rule you. If every time life gets hard, you shut down. If every time someone criticizes you, you give up. If every time the mountain looks high, you back away, then you will live in a cycle of starting and stopping, never finishing, never growing, never rising. But discipline breaks that cycle. Discipline says, yes, I feel the pain. Yes, I feel the fear. But I move anyway. And the enemy knows this. That's why he attacks your feelings. That's why he stirs confusion, discouragement, offense, and fatigue. Because if he can get you in your emotions, he can pull you out of your rhythm. He doesn't need to take your purpose. He just needs to make you emotional to pursue it. But when you choose discipline, you take back control. You remind your soul, I'm not led by how I feel, I'm led by what I know. Discipline means you stay the course even when the applause stops. You continue to write, to train, to invest, to serve, even when it feels like no one sees, because you're not doing it for visibility. You're doing it for vision. You're not doing it for validation. You're doing it because you made a vow to become who God called you to be. And vows are honored, not by convenience, but by conviction. Think about any great athlete, leader, entrepreneur, or spiritual giant. They all had emotions like you. They had fears, they had doubts, but they chose to push past the emotional fog. They understood that every time they showed up when it was hard, they were sowing seeds into their future self. They were paying the price now for results they would reap later, and that's what discipline is. It's a sacrifice in the short term for strength in the long term. You must come to a place in your life where you say, I don't need to feel it to do it. That's maturity. That's leadership. That's how mountains are moved. The disciplined man or woman keeps showing up to the gym, to the study, to the meeting, to the prayer room. Not because they feel perfect, but because they are committed to becoming excellent. That kind of fire can't be put out by bad days. That kind of focus can't be broken by emotional storms. And here's the truth, when you live by discipline long enough, it begins to shape your emotions. You start to feel stronger, more confident, more rooted. Not because life got easier, but because you became harder to shake. You're no longer tossed by every wave. You're no longer driven by every wind. You're anchored. You're steady. You're focused. That's the fruit of discipline. So let the emotions come, but don't let them drive. Acknowledge the feelings, but obey the mission. The dream is still alive. The purpose is still intact. But it will only be reached by the hands of the disciplined. Let others quit. Let others complain. You keep building. You keep pressing. You keep walking, because your future is too important to leave in the hands of how you feel. Discipline is your power. Discipline is your edge. Discipline is your spiritual strategy. And when you walk in it, you win. Would you like me to now expand the final, fifth keynote? You said, expand the fifth keynote without headings and intro of keynote up to 800-word. ChatGPT said, absolutely. Here is an 800-word expansion of the fifth keynote. Your success is your responsibility. Delivered in a motivational, educational tone in the style of T.D. Jakes without headings or introductory phrases. No one is coming to do it for you. No one is coming to carry you across the finish line of your destiny. Your life, your growth, your progress. It's your responsibility. And until you take full ownership of that truth, you will always live beneath your potential, waiting for a hand that may never reach out. Let me be clear. God will give you vision. He will give you favor. He will open doors. But it is still your job to walk through them. Your success is not their job. It's yours. We live in a culture that has trained people to blame the system, blame your parents, blame the government, blame your past, blame the lack of support. But blaming never builds. Excuses never produce results. Waiting on someone else to fix what God put in your hands will keep you bound forever. And hear me, your breakthrough will begin the moment you stop expecting people to rescue you and start rising up to develop yourself. God never gave anyone a finished product. He gave potential, and potential must be worked. Just because you have talent doesn't mean you'll succeed. Just because you have passion doesn't mean you'll prosper. You have to develop what you've been given. You have to cultivate it, fight for it, protect it, and grow it. You must make the choice every single day to take your life seriously. Not someday, not when the timing is perfect. Now. Success doesn't respond to whining. It doesn't respond to wishing. It responds to work. It responds to preparation. It responds to the person who wakes up and says, whether I feel like it or not, whether they support me or not, whether I'm applauded or ignored, I will not stop. I will be responsible for my assignment. Because you can't control how people treat you, but you can control how you show up. You can't choose your background, but you can choose your future and your choices. Your consistent, courageous, focused choices shape the life you live. You were not born to be passive. You were not created to be average. There is power in you, but it will not activate itself. Power must be stirred. It must be developed. It must be owned, and yes, it may be hard. Yes, you may have to start over. Yes, you may have to fight with tears in your eyes and scars on your back, but it is still your responsibility, because God will bless your effort, not your excuses. Stop waiting on perfect conditions. Stop hoping someone will hand you the opportunity. You are the opportunity. You are the one who decides how far you go. And that means you must take ownership of your time, of your habits, of your thoughts, of your emotions, of your gifts. Stop squandering them on distractions, on drama, on doubt. You don't have time to play small when heaven puts something big inside of you. You must rise up and declare no more blaming. No more waiting, no more wishing. I am responsible for what I build. I am responsible for how I grow. I am responsible for who I become. Because until you accept that, you will always be vulnerable to what life throws at you. But when you own your success, you become dangerous, you become disciplined, you become focused, and you stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming a vessel of purpose. Some people don't rise because they're waiting on someone to validate them. But you don't need their permission to be powerful. You don't need applause to pursue your vision. You need to give yourself permission to go all in, to get back up, to stay in the fight, to outlast the doubt, and to keep grinding in secret until the results show up in public. Because when it's your responsibility, you don't wait for motivation. You build momentum, and let me tell you, the enemy doesn't fear your potential. He fears your discipline. He fears the day you take full ownership of your future. Because when you stop playing the blame game and start owning your lane, you become unstoppable. You become consistent, and consistent people change the world. Not the loudest, not the most gifted, but the most faithful. The ones who say, even if I fall, I'll get back up. Even if I lose support, I'll keep going. Because I'm not doing this for people, I'm doing it for purpose. So make a decision today. Take full responsibility for your life. Own your time, own your energy, own your development. Get a vision, get a routine, get a plan, and then execute. Study when it's hard, train when it's inconvenient. Sacrifice when it's unpopular. Show up when no one notices, and I promise you, heaven will honor what you build in faith. Your responsibility is your calling in motion. Your action is your faith with legs. You can't control every situation, but you can control your response. You can control your grind. You can control your mindset. And the moment you stop outsourcing your future to other people is the moment you start seeing real change. So stop waiting. Stop blaming. Get to building. Because your success is not on them. It's on you. Would you like a conclusion tying all 5 keynotes together into a final message? You said, "Give me conclusion of entire speech," ChatGPT said. Absolutely. Here is a powerful, conclusive message that brings together all 5 keynotes from the speech focus on yourself until you win, in a motivational, educational tone in the style of T.D. Jakes. My brothers and sisters, if you're going to win in this life, really win, not just exist, not just survive, you must make a bold and unwavering decision to focus on yourself until you win. That's not selfish. That's stewardship. That's maturity. That's obedience to the calling on your life. You cannot give the world your best until you've built your best. You cannot serve from an empty cup. You cannot lead from a broken identity. This is your season to stop chasing people. Stop comparing journeys and start becoming the person God called you to be. You've heard the word. Now it's time to walk it. Let go of the noise, the pressure to perform, the addiction to external validation. Prioritize your growth. Learn how to be alone and still be powerful. Build when no one's clapping. Train when no one's watching. Speak over yourself when no one's encouraging you. Because your destiny is not found in their hands. It's found in your daily habits. In this life, you don't rise on talent alone. You rise on discipline. You rise on isolation. You rise on self-awareness. You rise on ownership. And you rise when you understand that your success is your responsibility. Nobody owes you success. Nobody owes you consistency. The world will offer distractions, but only you can offer focus. And if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to grow in silence, if you're willing to say no to feelings and yes to discipline, then nothing. No storm, no setback, no betrayal can stop what God is birthing inside of you. This is not about becoming better than anyone else. It's about becoming better than who you were yesterday. It's about waking up every day and saying, I'm going to push, I'm going to pray, I'm going to press, until I win, until I change, until I break through, because God didn't call you to survive. He called you to conquer. So let this be your declaration. I will focus on myself. I will fight for my future. I will silence the noise. I will trust the process. I will honor the journey, and I will not stop until I win, because your story is not over. Your potential has not expired, and your best days are not behind you. They are ahead, waiting for the focused, disciplined, fearless version of you to rise up and walk into them. Now go and win.